Gargantuans are these massive, towering beasts that inhabit the wilds of the Iron Kingdoms, and each of them has kind of come from a specific region that correlates to one of our factions.
The Gargantuans are being brought forward basically as the battles are escalating in our setting. We're having larger battles, there's more conflict happening between different groups, and so it's kind of a desperate situation for some of the factions, and they're bringing out their biggest weapons to bear.
And doing these new models and concepting them has actually given us a chance to not only bring things into the game that everyone wanted to see, but also to delve into the mythology a bit more and find things like the Mountain Kings, which actually have a great impact on the societies in which they come from, but we haven't actually seen yet. So we're enriching the world at the same time. Each faction has their own reason for bringing their Gargantuan into the field of battle now. For instance, the Woldwrath has been around in Circle armies forever. However, it's only recently, with the advent of the Stormwall and now new threats posed by Everblight, that they've needed to unleash these towering constructs.
The idea with the Woldwrath is that it was created shortly after the Orgoth invaded Western Immoren and started kind of taking over some of the key locations that the Circle Ouroboros had. And so the Woldwrath was created in small numbers to kind of defend those key sites. Nowadays, we're seeing more of the Woldwraths being created as the wars escalate.
You know, the Woldwrath is one of my personal favorites. I've been looking forward to this model for a long time, and it's got some really awesome and fun abilities that you get to lay down on your opponent. My favorite of which is the Earthshaker ability on its fists. So basically, after it punches something, it's got such massive and heavy fists that you can center a 4-inch AoE over that model, and anything in that AoE is immediately knocked down. This makes it great for assassinations and everything, because it can hit like a low defense target, knock everything else down, and then just pound the crap out of whatever's underneath it.
I think that the visual impact of that also goes along with its sort of supportive elements, where you can imagine it being sort of the centerpiece of your army with these druids, you know, around it, being empowered by its, you know, its animus and striding forth on the battlefield.
As excited as I was to see the Woldwrath in play, I have to be honest and say that the one that gets me giddy with absolute sadistic glee is the Archangel.
The Archangel is a dragon spawn on a scale that Everblight's, you know, never before attempted.
This thing is insanely fast. It's got a D3 strafe attack on an AoE with its fiery blast. It'll strafe by you with ride-by attack. And if it gets in close to you, it's gonna consume you with its massive jaws. It's everything you want a dragon to be. The Mammoth has been around in Scorn armies for a long time, but it's only with the cohesion that has been brought about by Archdomino Makita's rise to power that these things have now been able to be transported across and brought to the wars in Western Immoren.
They're at least loosely related to the Titans. It's clearly a distinct species. The wealthier Scorn houses have been trying to enslave these beasts and make use of them.
The Mammoth is a Mack truck of devastation. This thing doesn't care about supporting its army, it just wants to get in there and beat your face in. It's got some great ways to do this, including Bulldoze, which lets it push enemy models out of the way, in addition to Assault, which allows it to fire those massive guns on its back when it charges you, which is just damn scary.
You can imagine it being just as formidable as a siege engine, as, you know, crashing into your enemies with its body. And so I think in that way it really kind of embodies sort of the Scorn approach to war, which is, you know, punish you at range and then annihilate you in person.
The Trollbloods have recently unleashed the Mountain Kings, which are these ancient forces of all-consuming hunger and power that were actually locked up for fear that one day they would consume the entire world in their ravenous feasting. But things have been tough, and the Trollbloods have decided that now's the time to bring these beasts back to the fore so that they can have a hope of competing against all of the outside forces against them.
You can almost imagine back in the ancient legends the Trollkin wondering if, you know, is this where they came from? It's almost like here's something that's almost made out of stone that just has troll creatures, you know, kind of coming out of it. And so it's almost like an embodiment of what Dunia would be.
The Mountain King is pretty resilient against attacks that don't manage to kill it. So you've kind of got to go all in on it, or the next turn it's just going to eat all of its whelps, regain all of its health, and kind of pound the crap out of you. And when it does that, if it manages to destroy an enemy model, it then gets to make a roar attack. And this kind of shows that, you know, like any kind of good kaiju beast, after it crushes you, it lets out that triumphant roar. Its roar, however, will really mess you up because it's a spray 10 pow 16 attack.
Since they've been chained up under the earth for so long, they've basically had thousands of years of being hungry, and now they need to make up for that. So they've got a lot of eating to do.
Where Colossals are designed to be kind of mobile battleships that have tons of firepower, Gargantuans are kind of the opposite. Gargantuans were really designed to be all about getting up in your face, pounding the crap out of you.
Instead of spreading out your power into a few war beasts or units and things like that, it just lets you basically bring a weapon of monstrous destruction, a WMD.
The highest amount of melee potential a Colossal can have, if it's bonded, is 6 melee attacks. A Gargantuan starts at 6 and can go all the way up to 8. You know, very easily with any warlock.
Painting a Gargantuan is a much different process than painting a smaller model. Using things like an airbrush to get good transitions. When you have areas that are smooth and transitions of color, we want to break that up with areas of detailed texture. So if you've got the rocky forearms, you know, we want to get really detailed in there, because out across the arm we don't have that much texture or detail other than the sort of skin texture that's there. So being able to break up those visual spaces is key to making the model stand out in both painting and concept, really.
The Gargantuans book really gives us the chance to explore further the different factions of Hordes and to kind of round them out with new units and solos, in addition to the Gargantuans themselves and a new warlock choice for each faction.
And it also brings in warlock units, so we get a new dynamic that we haven't yet seen in War Machine with a warlock that actually interacts with some other models as a unit during its activation.
The book also takes into account all of this new stuff for each faction and throws in the Unbound rules with new formations that each faction can use during Unbound games, and wraps it all up with some great new narrative that explores the continuing struggles of each of these different Hordes factions in the game. I'm a big lover of Circle and Tharn, and we've got an awesome new Tharn unit called the Tharn Blood Pack, and these are basically Tharn with these massive like bows that can just shoot the crap out of anything, and they're really exciting because I think they kind of explore more in depth the hunting culture of Tharn, and we haven't really seen that yet.
One of the fun minions units that we're seeing is a bunch of undead bog trogs, these swamp shamblers, and so kind of carries forward the indignity that's being done to the bog trogs. With some of them are being animated as zombies and being sent on the battlefield by our Gatorman Bokor.
The Trollkin Warders give us a new perspective on some of the different fighting styles of the Trollkin champions. The Warders, as their name kind of implies, are very defensive in nature. They have giant shields and big long reach weapons. They hit just as hard and can be just as nasty as champions, but they fulfill a different battlefield role. And it's kind of nice to see more of the Trollkin defensive natures kind of come out in their fighting styles.
The Legion of Everblight is getting one of our most disgusting war beasts ever. It's a light war beast called the Afflictor. This thing flies around and it has this injector tail, like a ovipositor, and when it hits something with it, it basically injects them with an incubus, so that you have models popping into enemy models after this thing's done with them. So it's this horrific looking flying shark worm wasp creature that is disgusting. Like, I love it.
With Gargantuans, I think one of the things is that we're seeing these models that truly dwarf, you know, all the other combatants that you see on the battlefield, and I just think that's really exciting.
The thing I'm really excited about with Gargantuans is to see monstrous miniature combat come to life like never before as players get their hands on these awesome new Gargantuan models and storm their way across the table to rip out their opponent's throat.
The only thing left really right now is to see what everybody out there does with them on the tabletop, and that's going to be the best part of the experience is yet to come. So I have something really to look forward to with that.